300 miles from the magic island of Euclidia. 300 miles between the Gregory party and the weird colony of scientists who have held them captive for so long. With Joan Gregory at the controls of the stolen Euclidean submarine, putting another 40 miles behind them every hour, it looks as if Jerry and Joan, Mrs. Gregory, and Tex Bradford have really escaped from the island. They are not to be allowed to get away without some opposition, however, as the Euclideans have been sending out directional radio beams in an attempt to locate the missing submarine. All is quiet inside the sub now, and only Jerry and Joan are to be seen in the central control section.
Are you sure we won't disturb your mother and Tex if we talk up here?
There is no danger of that, Jerry.
But you can hear our voices all over this thing.
Yes, if I had not closed the stern section off.
Closed it off? Well, I can still see Tex and Mrs. Gregory asleep back there on the bunk.
To be sure you can. There is no necessity of losing visibility merely to restrict sound.
Yeah, I know. Everything's so easy for you to do. That's another one of those soundproof doors, I suppose.
To be sure. One of the transparent steel doors. Mother and the captain may rest there in perfect comfort and silence while we continue our discussion.
What discussion?
We were speaking of plans for our amusement in Los Angeles.
Oh, it'll be easy enough to find plenty to amuse you with when we get there. But I'd like to know a little more about our plans for the rest of this ocean.
The rest of this ocean, as you refer to the balance of our cruise, should prove comparatively uneventful.
Yeah, I can see that. Nothing's liable to happen to us except old G47 and his Euclideans. And when they happen to you, it's not so funny.
If there is any method by which the Euclidean scientists are able to interfere with our journey, that method is not apparent to me at this time.
But this was too easy. You can't steal a submarine and get away with it anywhere in the world, least of all from these guys on that island.
The success of our plan depends on the element of surprise.
I guess they were surprised, all right.
Indubitably.
Huh?
Indubitably.
Oh, okay. But I'll bet they were surprised, too.
You may continue to misunderstand me, but we are obviously safe from Euclidean pursuit.
I'm not so sure. How far are we from the magic island?
306 miles.
And you think we're safe from those scientists?
That is my belief.
What about their 500-mile-an-hour airplanes and their 1,000-mile-an-hour rocket ships?
We are in 8 fathoms of water, Jerry.
Can't they locate us easy enough with their directional radio stuff?
Not from Euclidia. Not so long as we do not attempt to use the radio set.
Well, we won't do that. We got one message from Johnson, and we know he's waiting for us in Los Angeles. That's enough for us.
It will be quite simple for a Euclidean plane to locate us in the water at this depth.
What did I just get through telling you?
But they have no weapon which will prove effective.
Couldn't a Euclidean plane attack one of our subs in this much water?
To be sure. But these underwater craft are insulated against all Euclidean weapons, to my knowledge.
Yeah, that's right. They would be, or your boats would be shooting up each other, practicing.
Exactly.
Well, I'll bet they could cause us plenty of trouble, though.
That they could easily do. And they could compel us to submerge to such a depth that our progress would be restricted to the vanishing point.
Well, what more do you want?
What more do I want?
I mean, what more harm do they have to do to us? If they can dive this thing down to the ocean floor and make us stay there until our provisions and fuel are gone, all they've got to do is wait until we have to come up to the surface for help and grab us.
That would be sound reasoning if Euclidean submarines were not superior to your worldly ones.
I know that you've got the best boats in the world, but no matter how much you know about science, you've got to eat and sleep just the same as anybody else. And we can't live on the water forever.
Our oxygen supply is continuously refreshed from the water.
I'm talking about food. We're going to have to keep eating.
We have sufficient compressed food to last a month with care. And during that time, we could reach Los Angeles if we were compelled to progress at an almost negligible rate along the ocean floor.
And they can't reach us with anything if we go deep enough?
No one can reach us at our maximum depth.
And just how deep can we go until they keep this thing moving along a little bit?
We may operate at a speed of 4 knots at a depth of 1½ nautical miles, 9,120 feet.
Golly whiskers. Won't the sides of the sub cave in from the water pressure when we get down that deep?
There is no natural water pressure on this globe sufficient to injure this submarine.
Well, if you say so, I'll have to believe it. And it looks like we're going to get home all right.
I'm sure of that, Jerry. We will arrive safely in California with the captain's formula remaining a secret from the Euclideans.
And what Tex will do to them with that formula will be plenty.
Do you know how he proposes to use it?
Well, I'm not any too sure, but I think...
One moment, Jerry. I must refuel.
Oh, give the sub another of those little pills, huh?
Yes. It will take but a few seconds to inject the fuel pellet and clear the combustion tanks. continue your remarks, Jerry.
Huh?
Jerry, you may continue.
Continue? What?
The discussion of the captain's formula and its use.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I was watching that refueling thing, and I guess I forgot what we were talking about.
You were going to attempt to explain how the formula for the universal solvent may be used in capturing the island of Euclidia.
No, I wasn't.
But you said
I said I wasn't any too sure how Tex intended to use it, and I'm not. Maybe he can explain it to you.
I will ask him.
Well, don't wake him up to do that.
That will not be necessary. The captain is awake.
Huh? Oh, yeah. It looks like your mother's awake, too.
Those thin metal sleeping compartments are perhaps not too comfortable for them.
I'll take a chance on going to sleep on one of them.
You will be given the opportunity the moment Mother and the captain come forward to relieve us.
You mean you're going to let Tex and Mrs. Gregory run this thing while you and I sleep?
Certainly.
But, do they know how?
I can give them all the necessary instructions in 10 seconds.
Well, I guess I can spare that much time. But I can sure use a little sleep before long.
Mother and the captain are now approaching.
I'll bet Tex bumps his head in that transparent steel door. I know it.
I will remove the transparent section panel.
Okay, Tex. You can come up here now.
What was that I bumped my head on?
A transparent steel panel. You will find no further obstructions to your passage.
It's a strange sensation to watch a man stopped by a steel wall that you can't even see.
Yeah, stranger than that when you're the fellow who gets stopped.
Joan put that section across the stern sleeping quarters so our talking wouldn't wake you up.
And we did sleep. At least I did.
Yeah, I did too, but I sort of feel a little like I've been sleeping on a rock pile.
Those flexible steel mattresses are a little strange to us.
Those will be found on all Euclidean craft.
So there won't be anything to burn if a fire tries to start, huh?
Precisely.
Well, kids, I feel a little guilty about letting you two stand watch while Pat and I slept, but if you think you can trust us to run this thing, we'll take it over.
Will that be all right, Joan?
Captain Bradford can do everything I could possibly do.
Joan can set all the automatic controls for you, and this sub navigates itself.
Would it make any difference if you opened those visibility slides for us, Joan?
None whatever.
Well, I think I'd like to have them open. Even if we can't do anything about it, I'd like to see where we're going.
It's nice and quiet riding along with them closed, though.
Yeah, I know, Jerry, but I know how Mrs. Gregory feels, too. And I'm inclined to agree with her. A little good old sound will be a tonic for both of us.
Yeah, it is a little too quiet for me here, but Joan likes it this way.
I will open the slides for you, Captain. I have just refueled, and you may repeat every 40 knots.
I understand, Joan.
Tex and I will stand a 4-hour watch.
We'll stand it as long as it takes you two to get some rest. You must be all in.
Oh, I'm not tired, but I guess I could sleep a little.
We will rest 4 hours. At that time, we may expect the Euclidean location beam again.
Could we try the radio?
No, it is too dangerous.
But you said the Euclideans had nothing they could harm us with in this sub.
That is true. However, if they learn of our exact location, it will be a simple matter for them to follow our progress to Los Angeles. And there are many ways in which they might plan a most unpleasant reception for us.
Yes, you're right, Joan. I think our best chance is to get into port without being located, if that's possible.
Well, come on, Joan. Let's go back and collect some shut-eye.
Collect what?
We'll take 40 winks. Hit the hay. Pile in the feathers. Go on the downy. Don't you understand any of those?
I do not.
Well, I mean, let's go back and lie down and sleep.
Then you should say what you mean. You are now the one who is using large words where small ones would serve much better.
Well, never mind about that. I'll argue with you after I get some sleep. Well, how do you shut this door?
I will close the door.
Those kids sure spend a lot of their time quarreling.
Yes, but it seems to be excellent for their morale. They also spend a lot of time getting things done.
They sure do. The nerve of Joan stealing this submarine.
I'm very proud of her, Tex.
You should be. When Joan learns our ways, she will be the most accomplished girl of her age in the country.
Do you think we'll reach home in safety?
We've got a long way to go. If Joan and Jerry can keep their heads up, we should be able to.
Joan forgot to open that slide for us. I'd like to see out into the water, Tex, and see where we're going.
Well, I know how to do that. I watched Joan close the slide. It's this one.
Oh, I like that ever so much better.
I'm not sure I do. We're a long way down the water, Pat.
But this submarine is so safe. And what a wonderful machine it is. Think of being able to look through a wall of transparent steel.
Yes, and a wall that will stand water pressure at a depth of 1.5 miles. I'd say we were pretty safe, Pat.
Well, at least we're not under G47's eyes, and he can't hear every word we say.
We can hear you, though.
Tex, was that Jerry?
Yes, but that stern section is soundproof.
Nevertheless, we can hear all you say.
How are they doing that?
Sounds like a speaker of some kind.
Nice work, Tex. This is a communication system. We're hearing you through the little microphone right in front of you.
Will you two stop playing and get some rest? Your 4 hours will pass soon enough.
You You are correct, Mother. We will cut off the voice channel.
Those kids sure managed to keep their spirits up.
They're a good deal younger than we are, Tex.
Well, I'm sure Jerry's a lot younger than I am, but you and Joan could pass for sisters.
Now, Tex, I have a fair idea of my appearance, and I know it isn't particularly flattering.
Your appearance is always exactly to my liking.
Oh, you're a sweet person, Tex. You spent many a year helping me search for Joan.
It's been more than worth it. And now we've found her.
Yes. She's mine at last. After 14 years, I'm actually taking her home, Tex. Home. Oh, it will be a home now, for the first time in those 14 long years.
Wait a minute, Pat. I heard something. Something strange.
Yes. And I thought I felt the submarine quiver.
We must have passed over a high reef.
No, the water's clear all around us. There isn't an obstruction in sight in any direction.
Well, I know something happened.
Well, Tex, it's getting nearer.
And it didn't sound good to me.
Dive, Captain Bradford. Those are Euclidean magnetic bombs. Dive at once.
Well, how do I do it?
Oh, Tex.
Quiet, Mother. That large lever between your knees, Captain. Pull it to you. Pull it quickly. We are being attacked from the air. Pull that lever.
The magic island of Euclidia is a weird place to discover, a difficult place to escape from, and now it seems that it's going to prove an even harder job to stay away from it. Jerry and Joan, Mrs. Gregory, and Captain Bradford stole one of the Euclidean submarines, and with Joan at the control, they raced away from the island in safety. Now they are nearly 400 miles from Euclidia, and that should be a safe enough distance from anywhere. But things move fast with G-47 and his scientists. We find Captain Bradford at the controls in the central section of the submarine with Mrs. Gregory at his side. A strange sound had just reached their ears. The submarine hesitates, then is tossed about as if a heavy shell had exploded near it. And from the stern section, Joan screams at the captain to dive. The submarine is being attacked.
Diving, Tex. You must have moved the right lever.
Looks like it, but we don't seem to be going down very fast.
Jerry and Joan are rushing up here from the stern, and Joan will know what to do.
I pulled this thing just as she told me.
You're doing everything that can be done, Captain Bradford.
But we're not diving very fast.
I thought you said this thing could dive like a fish.
Under proper conditions, these submarines will dive rapidly.
Well, what's the matter, Joan? What's happening?
Euclidean magnetic bombs.
Magnetic bombs? What are they?
I will explain later. We must reach a greater depth at once.
I did everything you told me to, Joan, but we're sure going down mighty slowly.
Our danger is also increasing. Those magnetic bombs are finding our range. Let me have the controls, Captain.
Go to it, Joan.
Can I help?
Yes, remain out of my way.
Okay.
I will use the emergency jets. All of you must hold firmly to the arms of your steel chairs. The vibration may be sufficient to break the ship in half, but we must try it. Hold your stations.
Really diving.
Our speed must be terrific.
Feels almost like a power dive in a plane.
I think we will gain our freedom now. This rate of descent will rapidly put us beyond reach of the magnetic bombs.
I could get seasick awfully easy.
Oh, I don't blame you, Jerry.
I guess we can stand it if Joan can.
We are nearly free from the effect of the bombs. In a few seconds, I will be able to reduce the speed.
Are we all right now?
I think there is no further danger from those magnetic depth charges. However, I will continue our descent more gradually until we reach a depth of 3,000 feet.
We've got to go down over half a mile to be sure of losing those attackers?
Yes, Captain.
They were not in a submarine, were they?
No, Mother. A Euclidean plane flying over us.
And they dropped those bombs from a plane?
Precisely.
But the explosions didn't do us any damage, except to rock the boat around a little. Why go so deep?
Those are magnetic bombs, and their action is purely magnetic. Had we remained longer at that depth, the pull of those released charges would have paralyzed this submarine completely. And naturally, that would have placed us at the absolute mercy of anyone who wanted to reach us.
But, Joan, I don't understand that at all. How could a bomb exploding in the water generate enough magnetic force to harm a 100-foot submarine?
Those bombs contain a charge of chemical which, when mixed with salt water, produces a magnetic field in the water, a field with a large radius. And the power is sufficient to render every instrument, every control on this boat useless for a considerable period of time.
Boy, that's a new one.
It certainly is, Jerry. And I can imagine how it might work. But one thing that isn't clear to me, Joan. Any solution released in a body of water as large as the ocean will become diluted to the point of uselessness almost at once.
That is true, Captain, but paralyzed instruments, magnetized controls, and helpless submarines do not return to normal in an instant.
I can't think of a more terrible threat, a worse danger than a submarine without instruments, power, or controls.
But if they were going to capture us, well, they'd have to hang around the air dropping bombs until we got ready to surrender.
That wouldn't give these Euclideans much trouble, would it, Joan?
Not when you remember that a Euclidean plane could easily afford to cruise 100 hours over our position and still have sufficient fuel to return to Euclidia from our present position.
I'm sure it wouldn't take 100 hours or half that long for me to be ready to give up. Drifting along in 8 fathoms of water, helpless. Oh, no, Joan. I'd be ready to meet their terms long before the 100 hours was up.
Yeah, that wouldn't be so good. And if that magnetism really got hold of us, we couldn't do anything, huh, Joan?
Not a thing. The oxygen jets would be paralyzed and our air supply soon exhausted. The emergency escape locks would not operate, and we could not leave the ship. There would be only one thing to do.
Yes, I know what that would be. Surrender. I don't see how we could even do that. If we can't leave the sub or get a message out of here, how could we let our captain know we were ready to give up? How could we get to the surface to surrender?
There is one thing on board not affected by magnetism, our compressed air supply. Our only resort would be to fill the space between the inner and outer shells of the submarine with compressed air and float to the surface as the water was driven out of the stabilizing channels. Even then, we could not leave of our own will. It would be necessary for our captors to release us from without.
And now, Joan, will we be able to proceed toward home at a lower level?
To be sure, Mother, though our progress will be comparatively slow.
Just how slow do you call comparatively?
At a depth of 3,000 feet, the highest speed we may maintain consistently will be 11 knots.
11 knots? At a depth of over half a mile?
I do not hope to exceed that.
I shouldn't think you would. Golly whiskers. 11 knots under half a mile of water? Well, our submarines think they're doing all right if they make 11 knots any time.
I am confident we may plan on continuing at that speed.
That's very wonderful, Joan, and certainly surpasses anything we'd ever dreamed of at home. But at that speed, will we be able to reach Los Angeles on our present supply of food and fuel?
I was wondering about that.
We will have more than enough fuel and food enough for a much longer time.
Well, say, now that we're talking about food, and it looks like we might get a chance to eat a little without being shot at, how about having our dinner?
Are you hungry, Jerry?
Well, if I'm not, I'm sure mixed up in my feelings.
We should not need more food at this time.
Well, what's the matter? You're afraid these Euclidean pills will make us too fat?
We had sufficient food for a definite number of hours. It is not time for the next meal.
Never mind what the clock says. My stomach is a lot more apt to be right about my being hungry.
Yes, I'm going to add my voice to yours, Jerry. I could stand something to eat.
Well, if everyone else feels that way, I'll admit a huge appetite.
Looks like you'll just have to sit around and watch the rest of us eat, Joan.
I shall do nothing of the sort. You will open a vial labeled S4, Jerry.
S4? What's the S for?
Oh, Jerry, what a horrible pun.
Didn't you like it?
It was pretty bad, son.
A more completely descriptive adjective would be atrocious.
Okay, if you don't like my puns, I'll eat all 4 of the pills and none of you'll get any fried chicken.
Do you remember where you got the last meal, Jerry?
Oh, yeah, right out of here. It sounds funny when you call a little bottle of 4 pills a meal.
They seemed to satisfy us before, though, Jerry.
Jerry knows the food is satisfactory. He is merely exercising his talents for discussion.
I believe you've got his number, Joan.
Number? What is your number, Jerry?
Oh, never mind. Well, here's a little bottle labeled S4.
I'd like to ask what that label means, but I don't want to run into any plans, as Jerry did.
The letter S designates sunset, or time for the evening meal. And the figure 4 in Arabic numerals states the quantity. 4 people may be served from that vial.
S for sunset. What was the Z for on the bottle we had at lunch?
Z for zenith, as Euclideans take their noon repast when the sun is at meridian height. Roughly 12 noon.
And what will our breakfast be labeled?
The morning meal is designated as D for daylight, and the number of people following. Our breakfast will therefore be D4.
Huh. D4 for breakfast, Z4 for lunch, and S4 for dinner.
Does sound funny, Jerry, but I like what I had at lunch. Suppose you pass the steak.
How will you have your steak, Mrs. Gregory?
Just medium, Jerry. Not too well done.
Okay, 1 medium steak. You get pill number 1. What was yours, Joan? Steak, chop, macaroni?
I will have one of the pellets, Mr. Hall.
Mr. Hall.
You appear to be a gentleman of note, Jerry.
I don't think she meant it that way. But here's your bacon and eggs, Captain. I think I'll have some pancakes and honey for mine.
I shall now restrict the angle of our dive to 5 degrees. That will enable us to reach 3,000 feet in a short time and will also allow me adequate protection from the automatic pilot. I will soundproof the ship, fix the controls, and return to the stern section.
You must be very tired, Joan, and Jerry also.
I am tired, Mother.
Well, I have felt a lot more chipper than I do now. But if there's anything to do, well, I can stick around and help do it.
Not a thing in the world, Jerry. You run along with Joan, get some sleep. If you can sleep on those thin steel sheets they call beds.
If the fatigue is sufficient, those couches will seem soft.
I managed to get some rest on one.
The control is now entirely automatic, Captain. Call me if you observe anything you do not understand.
I guess I can handle it all, Joan. Wait a minute. How about the radio? Can we use it?
I would not attempt to send messages until we have reached a point much nearer Los Angeles. As we descend, it will be more and more difficult for the Euclideans to determine our exact position, though they will easily locate us when we rise to the surface at the end of our journey. I think we can well afford to wait a few hours before sending any messages.
Right you are, Joan. Sorry I brought it up.
Come on, let's go back and iron out that steel in those bunks. Don't forget to call us after the 4-hour watch.
If there should be any extreme vibration of the submarine, you will call me at once, Captain?
Right, Joan. Now go on to sleep and let Pat and me worry.
Well, I may be foolish, Tex, but I'm not worrying a great deal.
You know, neither am I. Joan knows what she's talking about. If she says we can reach Los Angeles in this thing and be safe as long as we stay near the bottom, well, I know we can do just that.
But how we must have changed, Tex. All in the few short months since we left home on this cruise to find Joan.
Yes, we've seen a lot. Become accustomed to some mighty strange things during that time. Not that submarines are anything new, but this is certainly a far better boat than anything we've got at home.
Yes, better than we have at home. That's what I'm afraid of, Tex. Not pursuit and capture by those scientists. Not G-47 and his threats. I'm afraid because there's a terrible fascination in what we've learned.
I know just how you feel, Pat. I've felt it, but I didn't like to say it. After all our worry and struggle to get back home, I wonder, will we ever be happy there again?
That's just what I meant, Tex. I'm afraid we've seen too much to give it all up. Euclidia is a wonderful place.